Hello and welcome to our fire safety demonstration. So I've got some equipment here that I'm going to show you through first before we start the fire. So on hand I have a fire first aid kit, I have some gauntlets, I happen to have a fire blanket with me and my first aid kit. So some of that equipment you may have in your house, some of that you may not. At the very minimum, you do need your first aid kit and you need some kind of safety device for moving anything hot. So that could be a pair of oven gloves, that could be gauntlets if you have them, or something of that ilk. What I also have just out of shot is a bucket of water with a wet tea towel in it. That serves two purposes. One, if the fire gets out of hand and you need to put out the fire, it also helps with putting the fire out once it's finished and cooling down whatever you have cooked or lit your fire in. So on the ground at the moment I have sorted some sticks that I've collected from my local forest. I've collected little bits of sticks from loads of places, so I haven't taken lots of resources from one place. You might be able to just find some sticks in your garden, and then what I've done is sorted them into different sized sticks. So I've got some very small sticks like this, which are going to be my kindling. They should snap nice and easily and you should hear that nice snapping sound when you break them. If they bend, they're no good. Then I have some slightly bigger, sort of finger sized sort of sticks. We'll use these once the fire is started to get it a bit higher, and then I have some bigger sticks that we'll be using to maintain the fire once it's going. And then I've also got some cotton wool, and this is just some silver birch bark that again I found in my local area that I can use as a kindling. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my fire pit. So I'm using a gilly kettle today. That is something that I happen to have at home that I can use. You can use a tin can, you can use an old baking tray, anything that you've got that is safe and will contain the fire. So what I'm going to do first of all in my fire pit is I'm going to set out a raft. Now my gilly kettle fire pit happens to have a hole just here, so I've angled that against the airflow coming through, so there's some air going under my fire. So what this raft does is it allows air to circulate underneath the fire when it's going and provides a base for my fire. So I'm just putting some not too small, sort of those finger-sized sticks in the bottom to create a little bit of a base. Then my next thing that I'm going to put in is some of this kindling wood. Now you don't have to be too precious with it, you can literally screw it up into a ball and place that on. Okay, you can then use things like your bark and you can use your cotton wool. Cotton wool's a really good fire starter, really easy to use, and most people have got it around the house, so I'm going to put those in my fire pit. If you are using cotton wool, if you give it a nice fluff out like this, okay, you just allow that air to get into the cotton wool, and those little fibres that you can see when you tear it apart actually make it really easy to light the fire. Okay, so on my gilly kettle I'm going to put those in with just a little bit just sticking out of the hole just for ease of lighting. Okay, on top of that I'm going to use some of my smaller sticks to create basically like a wigwam. Some of you who've lit fires before might have done it this way, you might have done it slightly different. This is just a way of lighting it. A lot of you may recognise this structure. So this is going to be my very start of the fire. Okay, so once you've got your wigwam structure there, you can then light. Okay, so make sure it's safe to do so. I currently have an interloper in my video who is not helping with the fire lighting at the moment. So make sure you do check your area, make sure that it's safe to light your fire, make sure it's on a stable surface so that it won't get knocked or people accidentally run over it. That's really important. So when it's safe to do so, go away, Charlie. Back it up, doggy. Okay, when it's safe to do so, you can light. Now I happen to have my own flint and steel, but you can use whatever you have to hand, whatever you find easiest. You can rub 2 sticks together if you so wish. It does take a long time. If you've got a flint and steel, great, you can use that. If you've just got matches or a fire lighter, that's fine, whatever you've got in your home. So if you are using a flint and steel, okay, the tip for this is to use lots of pressure. Doesn't need to be fast. And we say with the angle, we don't want it to be an open door, we don't want it to be a closed door, we want it about halfway, and then we press and scrape along the steel. So I'm going to do that hopefully to light it straight away. It might take a few attempts. So once you get an established flame, okay, you can start using slightly thicker sticks. You don't want to put too many in there because you'll reduce the oxygen to your fire. And obviously if you do get smoke from your fire, just move away from wherever that smoke is going to. So I might start using some slightly bigger pieces now. So these are about sort of finger sized. I'm only keeping it small because I'm only doing it in a gilly kettle, so it doesn't need to be big. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that fire to establish. Okay, now the most important thing that you might need now is something to cook your marshmallow over. Now I've just got a green stick that I've whittled at the end, but you could use a skewer, you could use anything really you've got to hand, and my very trusty assistant will just pass me a marshmallow. So as you can see, the flames are coming up nice and high now. A lot of the wood is still burning, so I don't need to put anything more in at the minute. Thank you, trusty assistant. And then I can cook my marshmallow. So, depending on how you like your marshmallows, if you want it nice and crispy, you can put it in the flame. If, like me, you like it nice and melted, just keep it slightly above the flame, or even once the fire has died down, you can do it over the embers. It will keep quite a lot of heat. And it doesn't take too long. Once your marshmallow is cooked, okay, you can sandwich it between some biscuits, or you can eat it direct. If you do eat it straight from cooking it on the fire, leave it for around 10 seconds just to cool down before you eat it, as it will be very, very hot. So you should notice it will start to go a bit, I always think it looks a bit sweaty when it starts to cook. And then it should go soft and juicy on the inside. I'm just turning mine round, so I don't like mine too burnt. I'm also keeping a distance away. If you've got anybody else in your household that might come near, you might want to set a fire circle of around normally about 2 meters away from your fire, especially if you've got pets or younger siblings. Obviously this is just me with my fire. I'm sitting comfortably as well. I'm nice and secure. I'm not wobbling around because I'm seated, and I'm a safe distance away from the fire. I could be a little bit further away and still comfortably reach it if I wanted to feel a bit safer. Okay, so that's my marshmallow nice and toasted. It's nice and squishy on the inside and nice and crispy on the outside. Okay, as you can see, my fire is starting to die down. I could probably get quite a few marshmallows on there, but what I'm going to show you now is how we're going to put out the fire safely and how we can make it safe so that we can move our fire equipment. So this is where our bucket and our tea towel come in really handy, as well as being something to keep you safe if you do get burnt. Okay, what we can do is use our bucket and tea towel together to put it out. So all I'm going to do is use the wet tea towel, and I am just going to gently drip this over the fire. You can hear it steaming, but what I'm also doing while I'm dripping it over the fire, not only am I making sure that the flames are out and obviously any of the ashes are cooled, because if you've got your fire going for a while, your ashes will be very, very hot. Okay, what I'm also making sure is the actual metal is being cooled as well. Okay, so I'm going round the edge of my gilly kettle pan. I'm making sure that everything inside it is cool, as well as the actual container itself. Now that should be fairly cool to start with. You might want to get an adult to check. They could hold their hand quite near it just to check the temperature, and then just gently check if it's safe to move. Now my fire wasn't lit for very long. It's cooled down very, very quickly. I can then dispose of those ashes in a safe way. So that is my fire lighting. So stay safe, make sure you have your equipment before you start, and make sure you sort out any of your twigs or branches before you start, because that will help with your fire. But most importantly, stay safe. Thank you very much for watching.